Hello and welcome to the Inspiration Station for Self-Awareness. I'm Hazel Butterworth,
And I'm Carmen Braga.
and today's topic is going to be about trust. You were going to jump in there, weren't you?
It's a big topic. It's a big topic.
It is. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
When we started looking at this earlier today, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize there was so many levels to trust before.
Yeah.
Clearly, we can't touch on all of them, but we are going to touch on a few different things today for you guys. So, yeah.
It's trust is, do you trust yourself? Who do you trust? What do you trust? There's so many things. There's so much chaos going outside of us right now, happening with the world. Who do you trust? Who do you trust?
Yeah, and I think the biggest one of all time is in relationships.
That's a big one.
That's a big one for a lot of people, especially if they've been hurt,
Yeah.
By someone who's cheated on them, for example, or something like that. That is a huge, huge issue. And I know we've both heard it from clients and stuff over the years. It's very difficult for people to trust after being hurt by somebody. But at some point, how far do you take that, right? Because it ends up actually hurting you later on down the line if you're not able to let things like that go. And that's where you have to kind of trust in yourself to process it in a different way. Does that make any sense?
Okay, I see where you're going. I see where you're going. Wasn't where I thought you were going to go. We'll start with relationships.
Surprise.
Yeah, we'll start with relationships. And you're absolutely right. There's so many people out there who have been let down, felt they've been left down, or maybe they've been hurt and they're in a new relationship and finding it difficult to trust their new partner. But yeah, it's how you process that. First of all, you've got to look at what is trust. Always start with, what do you mean by trust? What does it mean to trust someone? What does it mean for them to trust you? What does that look like? What does that feel like? So I encourage you to go and explore that first of all. Whenever there's an issue on the table, before you can learn to understand it, you've got to know what your perception is, what your interpretation is.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to trust and to be trusting?
And also your expectation of it.
Expectations is a big, and that comes like builds on top of the trust, because you could trust someone, but if you're expecting something completely different, then you're adding to that equation, right? Because you want to trust them, but you're expecting them to behave a certain way. So we have to take that expectation off and learn to be trusting.
Well, and I think that's what made this so big for us today, because there's so many branches.
Oh, I know. I know.
There's just a lot of branches to this topic.
Yeah. Well, we were looking at, because like over the week we kind of consider, when we get these questions come in, next week we're going to do this. So we mull it over for a week, and we're looking at, and then we come back together, and it's like, well, where did you go? Where did you go? And sometimes we go in completely different directions, because what I understand and what Carmen understands are very similar, but also very different. And that's based on your own experiences. Because when I asked you earlier, it came up with relationships. Can you love someone if you don't trust them? And what was your first response?
Apparently the look on my face was classic.
When I asked
because I was thinking of my husband. I was
Yeah.
thinking of the trust that I have with him. But then you said, well, not in a relationship, trust someone that you love, right?
Well, I said you can still love someone, but perhaps not trust them completely.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And then you had a good example of your.
Well, I have a brother like that. I love him dearly, but I do not trust him. I do not trust him. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there that can identify with that. So it is possible to love someone and still not trust them.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, yeah.
And trust is not just a given. And, there is that earned trust, because you might start off not quite sure, and that's okay. But as time goes by and as behaviors validate that this person is a trustworthy person, then you come to learn to trust that person. And you may have different people that you turn to. Like you may trust someone to make decisions, say financially, because they can give you good advice, or that's their expertise. But I certainly wouldn't go to person B for financial advice, because their credit cards are up to the hill, so they obviously are struggling financially. So sometimes it's trusting information that's coming. If you're asking for information, you're trusting a person, or you're trusting information, or you're trusting a situation. Like, what is it? We talked about science as well. Trusting science. Science is only good as far as it's proven. Then somebody else comes up with another theory. So you can't trust that theory. The food industry is a big one. Eggs. I love the egg example, because for a long time eggs were good for you. Then all of a sudden they were bad. But no, it's only the yolks, so just have the whites. And then they discovered, science said, no, when you put them both together, it's kind of like the yin yang. Together they actually worked in harmony. So it's like, who do you believe and who do you trust?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it seems like almost every week there's something new coming out saying, try this. This is the best thing. It's a superfood. And then a month later, it's like, oh, don't do that. Don't go there. And it's like, I mean, I think that's probably when we base our trust on what we see in the media, for example. It can be very misleading and very all over the place. And one day it's this and another day it's not. So it's no wonder that we don't trust that, right?
No, because it's very confusing.
Yeah.
So trust, I tend to think of truth. What is the truth? If someone is true to their word, if someone is true to their actions, if there is truth in it, then you can become more trusting of, right? Because then over time you come to believe in that, you become comfortable in that, you have confidence in that message or in that person or in that situation, because it's an earned trust.
Absolutely.
It's not just necessarily given a blanket trust, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we used to believe in lots of things and trusted that Father Christmas was real. So we learned different. Sorry, kiddies. But there's lots of things that we've been programmed to over the years, right? Trust me. And how many times in conversations, if someone's trying to convince you of something, do they say, trust me, I know what I'm doing. Trust me on this. I've got this. Trust me. Trust me. And so you can either blindly place your trust in that, or you can be willing to trust and give it, some accolade, or you can say, let me check it out first before I trust you. So there's this.
Well, if somebody hooked me up to a bungee jump thing and said, trust me, I don't think I would.
You don't trust that rope?
No.
Could you still do it with an element of mistrust in that, knowing that there is that possibility?
What?
You couldn't. A bungee jump, people do it all the time.
Oh, I know they do.
Right? People parachute all the time.
Freaks the hell out of me. But I don't like heights, so it's not my thing.
But trust it's such a huge topic to look at it, and really what it boils down to is, where do you start to trust?
Yeah. Well, and it's opening up that vulnerability within yourself.
Yes.
To actually open up to trust someone.
Yes.
And I think that's something too, because in a way we've been taught to close ourselves off.
Yes. Yes.
Out of fear of being hurt.
Yes.
And so it's really hard for a lot of people to open themselves up and be vulnerable to whatever there is coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
Right?
I think where I'd like to encourage viewers is to really question yourself. Through the work that Carmen and I do, everything is about what's on the inside.
Yeah.
And it's about learning to trust our own intuition, our own gut instincts, our own decisions. And again, one-to-one, do we trust ourselves? Do you trust yourself? I asked Carmen this question earlier. Do you trust yourself completely?
Well, I had a different answer to this. Okay, so for me, because I I look at myself as a human side and also a soul side, right? So there's two sides to me. So the human side of me is the programmed side of me. Do I trust that side of me implicitly? Not really, because that side of me has made commitments and broken them, and that
We're talking desserts here, people. That was the question. That was one of the questions. Can you trust when you make a promise and say, "I'm not going to have any more desserts"? And you make that promise to yourself. Do you keep it?
Well, you know what? I love chocolate. What can I say?
But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you short, but that's how it came on to you. Can trust your soul side.
I can trust my soul side because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that part of me is the deepest part of me. That is the I am presence that I am. And I know that part of me will never lead me astray. There is no such thing as not trusting that part of myself. And that goes in line with the intuition.
Yes,
right?
Yes, yeah. It's trusting your soul.
We always say that. Trust your intuition, trust your gut instinct, because that first thing, when you get that first gut instinct, it is always the right thing. And how many of us have had that hit where, you get that gut instinct says you should go this way, but you don't listen and you go that way. And that way ends up being a rocky road. Something happens along the way and you go, damn it, I should have listened to my gut instinct, right? That's the thing. It will never lead you astray. So when you asked me that question, I saw it from those two sides of things,
I like to ask questions.
Yes, she does.
I love questions. But that's the reason I do that is because we don't ask ourselves enough questions. Only when we're in that ego, shoulda, woulda, could I, right? Shoulda do this, shoulda do that. But when you have a true question and then go to your true source, which is your soul source, and go to your inner guidance system, and that will guide you and keep you on your soul path. Right? Follow your soul, follow your gut. And you could have been in a quiz or something and you get this answer and it pops in your head and then ego talks you out of it or someone else talks you out of it. But if you'd stuck with that first one, you would have got the answer right. Right? How many times have we done that? And so over the years, how many times have we disproven trust so that we're not trusting of? And many, many, many times we do it to ourselves. I can promise to be home for a certain time. And I get caught up in my work. And do I get home at that certain time? So can my husband trust me to be home when I say I'll be home? Right? Just 2 days ago. Actually this morning, and we're doing our videos today. And he said, what time will you be home tonight? And I went, and he goes, don't tell me. Oops, sorry. Because last time, I was an hour late. So how can he trust me implicitly when I don't fulfill even a simple promise of not being at home at a time? And it might sound trivial or simple, but it's still, whether you're trusting to give someone $1 million or whether you're trusting to get someone to help you cross the road, it is still trust. Whether it's a little thing, whether it's a major thing, it's still trust. And all the times and experiences we've had for ourselves where either we've been mistreated, a trust has been broken, but we're doing it to ourselves. We're doing it to ourselves all the time.
Well, we do it to ourselves all the time. We really do. We're kind of our own worst enemies sometimes.
Yeah, so trust. I encourage you to look at the word. What does it mean for you? How does it show up in your life? Are you trusting of others? Are they trusting? Can you be trusted? But the biggest thing is it starts within. So where are you not trusting yourself? Where are you not trusting that you have the capability? Where are you doubting yourself? Where are you not trusting that not only do you have the ability, that you have, that it is possible Anything's possible. But if you don't trust that it is, we talk about trust the process. I use that term all the time, and I'm not sure that everybody understands what I mean by trust the process. So when you hear that, I'm going to challenge you, because I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm going to ask you to look at that. Trust the process. What does that mean for you? What is the process? Ooh, we left you with a question. So one of the things that we wanted to do today was, we were talking about our inner guidance, is actually, how do you connect to that inner self, that inner guidance?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, it's going into my heart. That's the number one place to go, is into your heart, and to connect with that light within you, because we all have it. It's there. That is actually the truth of who you are. You are an infinite, unlimited being. And it's so important to, let's say, restore that connection, if you haven't already, with yourself, with that deepest part of yourself that does know all of this. You know, it's and that you can trust implicitly. It's an amazing place to be.
When you get that knowing, and it just is that absolute, it's that feeling, it just is, absolutely. So I'd like to invite you, maybe perhaps do a replay, so that you can actually sit and experience this for yourself, as opposed to just listening right now. I would encourage you to watch the replay, but let's just take a moment and let's just close our eyes. And let's just place awareness into your heart center. And if it helps, put your hands on your heart. And as you breathe, perhaps you're aware of your heartbeat. Perhaps you're aware of your muscles expanding, contracting. Perhaps you're hearing the sound of your breath as it travels through the nose or through the mouth. And perhaps it's just the focus of where your breath goes as you breathe in, all the way down to your heart center. And as you sit in this space, this inner self, I'm going to make a statement, and I want you to repeat the statement in your head. I always keep my promises to myself. I always keep my promises to myself. And as you make that statement, be aware of how your body feels. Do you feel open and relaxed? Does that ring true for you? Or is there some hesitation? A second phrase. I trust myself completely. I trust myself. I trust my soul to guide me, to lead me. I trust completely. And as you say those words in your head, what do you feel in your body? And rest. That was just a couple of examples. You can check in with yourself if you make a statement that you perhaps think is true for you. Make that statement to yourself, to your soul, and then see the response. We feel truth. We don't have to convince ourselves, but we feel. It's a knowing, it's an understanding, it's a comprehension. It's just there, it just is. We can sense that for ourselves. We have our heads center, we have our heart center, and then thirdly, we have our hara, H-A-R-A center. And so we think, we feel, and then our gut instincts is the catalyst for our actions. So when we make statements from our mind, we check in how do we feel, and then what's our gut telling us. So you can always check in with yourself. How does that feel for you? You can choose any statement.
Yeah.
Do you trust yourself?
Oh, it works beautifully.
Yeah.
It does. 'Cause
Yeah.
you will always, on that level, you're always going to tell yourself the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
It just can't be any other way.
Yeah. And if you practice that, you can just sit in silence and breathe. And sometimes if you have a decision to make, you don't have that conversation in your head. You just make the statement. This is the best decision for me to take this job, or to whatever it is, right? To travel to this place, or to...
Well, and I do that quite often where I'll if I have to, like a decision to make, I'll say, okay, if I do this, you know, whatever it is, take this job, for example. If I take this job, and sit with that, like, what if I take this job, and feel how you feel on the inside, like you said.
Yeah.
You're either going to relax or you're going to constrict.
Yeah.
One or the other,
Yeah.
right? So with any kind of decision,
Yeah.
anything at all, it's a great way to tell. Your body will always tell you the truth.
Your body never lies. Your body knows your truth. And that's why muscle testing, anyone who's familiar with muscle testing, we can ask the body questions and we get those responses from the body because your body knows the truth. And it's either open and it's strong, or it's constricting and it weaks. It weaks. It doesn't leak. It is weak, right? So yeah, it's a great way to check in with yourself. So learning to trust yourself is really where we start.
Yeah, it is. That's your foundation.
Yeah.
Always start at the foundation, and that's the strongest foundation you can possibly have, is trusting yourself.
Yeah.
And then work up from there.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
like I said, this is a huge topic.
I know. Oh, we looked at, well, how do you trust others? And there's all the things on the outside. Do you trust other people? Do you trust other people's decisions? Do you trust this person? How do you learn to trust a person? How do you learn to trust what the government's saying? How do you learn to trust what the medical system's saying, or the pharmaceuticals, or the nutrition? Because everything is always changing.
Yeah.
So how do you know what's true for you?
Well,
Right?
especially right now. I mean, what we once trusted, we're not trusting so much anymore.
No.
Excuse me. Yeah, so it's really important to start trusting yourself instead of all the hearsay that's going on around. Really go into yourself and find that deepness within yourself and ask those questions, make those statements, because that's where you're going to get your truth from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we talked about, well, what happens if trust lets you down, and the old dialogue is you're hard on yourself, you start judging yourself, your regrets. Oh, I should have, would have, could have, should have done this, should have done that. Oh, I can't trust that anymore. You know, sometimes we make blanket statements, and that's something to be wary of too. You can't put everything into the one basket, right?
Yeah.
You've got to really start taking those pieces out and looking at things, but start with yourself. Do you trust yourself? Yeah.
Best place to go.
Best place. Right here. Right here. Okay. What else do you want to add today, or are we?
I think that's about it for today on this particular topic.
Because we can explore a lot more in that, but not in today's video. So we'll come back.
You probably don't want to sit here and listen to us for 2 hours.
No.
If you do, book an appointment.
I will share one thing. When I'm teaching, I tell students not to trust like everything I give them. I'll give information and I'll say, go do your own research and you come to your own conclusions. So I'm not asking you to believe everything I say. I give a perspective, I
Mhm.
give you some suggestions, and it is for you to make your own choices and decisions.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right? I can only speak from my experiences, Carmen from her experiences,
Yeah.
and what we've read and what we've learned along the way,
And
which is
there's-
huge.
Yeah.
Right? But
There's a lot out there. So,
yeah,
pick and choose, but don't overwhelm yourself
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
Right?
because that's the thing too in this arena. Who do you go? Who do you listen to? Who do you go talk to? Who do you trust that is giving you information?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
trust your gut instinct. If anything sounds a bit iffy, then question it.
Mhm.
Right? If you don't like what they're saying, or it sounds anything that's too good to be true type thing in that old terms, then question it.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
We're not saying that you have to go out and trust everything and everybody.
No. Well, it's
Right.
like when you meet somebody, you automatically get that feeling of whether or not you trust them or not. Actually,
Yeah.
we have that just ingrained in us because we're energy beings. We can feel the energy of others, and I know I've met people in my time that have gone. My instant reaction is, oh, I'm going to use the word smarmy. I don't even know if that's a word, but it's a word that I use that I just get that feeling from them, right?
Yeah.
And that tells me immediately, don't trust this person.
Yeah.
Right?
The proof is in the actions.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's repeated actions that earn your trust, then you can trust them. But if you don't feel it from the beginning, it can take a while.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you've been mistreated before, then you meet a next person. I've done it again. Least, it must be the E words. Least likely to trust that person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because of your past experiences. So there is no magic one way. It's based on your experiences, and you have to build that trust. But first, you're going to know what trust is. What's it look like? What's it feel like? And then you build it from there.
Mm-hmm.
So look at your own experiences. What does trust mean to you? Learn to go in to your heart center. Learn to make statements and how they feel. Does it feel good for you? If it feels good and feels right, then go with it. If it's then question it. Right? You might still go with it because your ego says, I really want to go and try it anyway. And then you'll go off and have that experience. That's your choice. That's free will. But learn to tune in here and start trusting yourself. And if you're making promises to yourself and you're not keeping them, and then that is not trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a good.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No.
On that note.
Okay, so if you want to learn any more about us, you're welcome to visit our website, which is healingheartcenter.ca. If you're ever wanting to work with us, Hazel and I work with people one-on-one. We do group coaching as well. Lots of different things. Not coaching. Don't like the word coaching.
We're mentors.
Yeah. Right? It's a very different thing, and the way that we approach things is very different as well. So yeah, you can go on and book an appointment on our site. And we also have an amazing Facebook group called Ignite Peace Within that we welcome you to come and join our group. We have some awesome people in there. We do live videos in there as well. People contribute different things. It's a really good place to get more information about lots of different things. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So hopefully we'll see you one way or another. And if you bump into us in the street, say hi.
Yeah.
We might not know who you are, but you can say hi. We know you.
Oh, we're here in Sherwood Park, and this is Sherwood Park TVU.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All righty. So until next time, be kind to yourself and learn to trust.
Yeah. And have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.